Well, the boat's still here. That's something. I'm Christian Williams. Thank you for all the notes of sympathy and condolence. And I thought, as a result of that, I was really obliged to provide an update of what happened on January 7th, 2025 in Pacific Palisades, Los Angeles, USA. A day which many of us will remember, 10,000 of us in fact. As is my habit, I was writing in my home office that morning about 10:30. I don't bring a cell phone in there, too distracting. I had been dividing my time between chapter 4 of the new book, which has autobiographical elements to it, and getting a cup of coffee in the kitchen. And to distract myself from the distractions, I would work on my sail covers. I'd already completed the mainsail cover with many yards of sunbrella, and I had just put the finishing touches on 2 weather cloths, 2 elaborate line bags, beautifully fitted hatch covers, and even covers for the stereo speakers in the cockpit, not to mention the binnacle cover, a complex work of craftsmanship, if I do say so. Alternating between writing and sewing makes almost a perfect work schedule for somebody like me. So at 10:30, as part of this ritual, I went to get some more coffee in my cup in the kitchen and noticed that the sky was rather dark. Too dark, really. My cell phone was there and it was ringing constantly. I took my new cup of coffee and followed the darkness across the street to where my neighbor Richard was waiting. Blowing 30, gusting much higher. Yeah, you're right. That doesn't look really good. That doesn't look good at all. So it burns that way and then this way, or maybe not.
Well, let's hope not, but
maybe not.
It's burning without anything to check it. So
it goes so fast.
My Jones house here, Lisa. Okay.
So I had just finished my canvas project, new line bags, new weather cloths, and this is where they all were. I guess sunbrella is not fire resistant enough. Lemon trees. And that's where the deck was that I put 2 weeks into constructing some years ago. Not much left, but I'm very proud of the footings. They survived. Why the hedge might even survive. I used to cut that hedge myself. I had the whole routine worked out. This was a sundial my father gave me. Well, another souvenir. So, yes, we lost everything. But here's the thing. Everything right down to toothbrushes. Why, this sweater I'm wearing arrived in the mail by Amazon 2 days ago. We lost all of our clothes. We lost everything we owned in a material sense. As you can see, the house needs to be bulldozed now. Except for one bent anchor and a couple of souvenirs, nothing left. The force of such a fire is beyond imagination. It incinerates cars, but it takes fabric of couches, everything that isn't steel, and reduces it to ash. The first floor falls into the basement, the second floor falls onto the first floor, and the roof falls onto all of that. In picking through the wreckage, there's really nothing left to find after such a conflagration. The power of the wind, I could feel 40, 50 knots blowing in my face when I left, and with it the first wave of heat. And that devastated our entire neighborhood. 20 houses of people whom we knew well and had dinner with periodically are in the same condition as our lot is. And devastating is the only word for it. A true act of God, if there is one, and if there isn't, an act of Satan. But there's an interesting phenomenon, at least for Tracy and me, which is that, in a sense, we feel a kind of enforced starting over. You know, I'm 81. I've already lived a long life. Tracy's a few months younger, about 180 months younger. And she has a business to run, and I have things to do. We found ourselves bereft of the expected emotions and feelings of loss. There are a couple of reasons for this, and I don't want to downplay the agony of all of our neighbors, especially those who have kids in school and 2 or 3 dogs. After all, finding a place to live is not easy. Kids in school have their own trauma. But for Tracy and me, a single couple whose kids are long since graduated from college and gone, and whose grandkids are happily ensconced in their unaffected homes, it was really a kind of wiping a slate clean. Oh, it wasn't our choice. In the 35 years we lived there, I felt each day an appreciation of Pacific Palisades, California. I tell you, it could not have worked better for somebody like me or Tracy. 2 grocery stores 3 blocks away, UPS, a bank teller, an electric bicycle by which I could cruise to my daughter Alexandra's house in the Huntington section in less than a minute. Upon awakening in the morning with coffee, a view of the Pacific that spread 90 or 100 degrees, an almost perfect climate. All this we had. And all this I appreciated every single day, having lived in many places and having originated in Brooklyn and New Jersey. New Jersey being characterized, although a wonderful state known for its gardens, to me by a horizontal driving 40-degree rain all winter, and then summers in which trucks and airplanes and the clacking of train couplings characterized most of the auditory nature. So we had achieved a sort of earthly paradise, and now it was taken from us in just one day with no warning at all. Where does that leave you psychologically? It's very odd. Tracy and I suddenly had innumerable things to do. the inconvenience level is off the charts. But even as we visited the ruins, we looked at each other and said, well, this was a wonderful place to live and raise children. To splash in that swimming pool, now black with glop. To sit on the deck that I had built. To lie in the shade of the hedges, which I had clipped. And yet, there was a substantial difference in our experience from that of other life events. This isn't war. This is an act of nature, which, if you'll allow me to be sarcastic, is nature's comment on the affluent. There's nobody to hate. In war, there are plenty of people to hate. Why, if we lived in Dresden during the firebombing, we'd hate the bombers forever. The people in Gaza will never get over the fact of their existence. But when the wind blows and the fire comes, it's sort of nobody's fault. It is you swept up by an inevitable consequence of dryness, wind, and a spark. We'd been evacuated before. These coastal communities in Southern California are naturally dry. They are affected periodically in wintertime by what we call Santa Ana winds, which are desert winds, which as they cross the the mountains that surround Los Angeles, the Santa Monica Mountains, they rise and then descend in katabatic winds of great force. 50 knots through our canyon was not uncommon. On the day of the fire, the relative humidity was 0.70, less than 1%. You know, 15 or 20% humidity is very dry, and in Florida, having a beer on somebody's veranda in August, the relative humidity is probably 95%. That combined with one spark makes a conflagration that has become increasingly common in our environment. Why don't we feel more anguish and regret? I'm not sure. We had to find a new apartment, competing with 10,000 people for the same living spaces in an environment already hard to find a place to live. We had good insurance. That certainly sets us apart from most people. We have an income independent of work and also a viable company run by Tracy Olmsted, which gives her still an 8 or 10 hour day in the midst of reparations. State Farm Insurance has 1 million forms to fill out, but a lot of money suddenly offered to victims. We were put in the first days after the fire in a hotel in Santa Monica, California, in which the elevators were populated by people with dogs and tears. We felt lucky. Just the two of us. Yes, we'd lost our home, and I don't want to make light of what was lost. In my case, 1,000 books that are irreplaceable. I make marginal notes. I had a philosophy library of 200 books in which the first pages were annotated with alerts to what was on page 89, what Hume had said, what Voltaire had said about Hume, the sort of thing that writers like to keep forever and always can consult and reconsult. Well, not anymore. That's why memory is really who we are. We cannot see the future, that's for sure. The present goes by in an instant. What we are is a collection of recollections. That's what makes us who we are. So for Tracy and me, 35 years in that house, which is now reduced to ash, is as real as it was at that time. It will always be with us, even though we lost most of the pictures that we had of it. We will go forward, carrying on our shoulders the past. And that's a great thing, to have a past that you don't regret, of which you're proud, and which makes you who you are. Thanks a lot for being there. You know, we've been through a lot together. More than 10 million people. The channel has more than 10 million views in sum. And this has meant a great deal of personal communication between me and viewers. In that sense, we're all in this together. We all go forward together. And I don't want to sound like Pollyanna. I'm a cynical son of a bitch at heart. But when you get right down to it, what you have is what you have this instant. There is no future. We carry with us the past. And with the past, we go forward. Oh, and the boat's fine. So as soon as I can get my act together, let's go sailing. Blowing 30, gusting much higher. Yeah, you're right. That doesn't look really good.